AMD Ryzen 3000 is here, and you can now purchase quite a few CPUs from them. Also, their GPUs are out. We're going to mainly focus on the 3900X and the 3700X. We'll go over specs. The YouTubers have their reviews out, so we'll check out some of their performance benchmarks and everything, and quite a lot more. So let's jump into this. So 3900X has a boost clock of 4.6, base of 3.8, and 12 cores. So that's a lot of cores versus Intel's 9900K, which only has 8. And then the 3800, 3700X are both 8 cores, a little bit different boost clocks here, 38 a little bit higher. And then you got your 6-core CPUs as well as some 4 cores with some Radeon graphics as well in there too, at all different price points. And then you got your PCI 4.0 with the new X570 motherboards. So we'll talk a little bit about that too, but some pretty good stuff from AMD. Here's a little bit more of a breakdown of everything. Your L2, L3 cache, PCI 36 out of 44 usable lanes. That's pretty high for CPU eyes, but let's jump into gaming performance. So we checked out Gamers Nexus's 36-minute video. Definitely check that out. Get really in-depth review, especially if you're purchasing one of these CPUs. Definitely check that out. So he is going to do some Shadow of the Tomb Raider. We also checked out Hardware Unboxed. He has a 37-minute video as well. And we're also comparing with Linus Tech Tips. So they have different PC setups, obviously test benches, but we're just going to check out some of the numbers and some of the similar games that they tested at similar resolutions. So the one game they all did at 1080p, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. 2 of them did it on high settings. Gamer Nexus did it on medium settings, and he also did overclocking numbers, which is pretty nice to see. So Shadow of the Tomb Raiders, we're seeing on the 3800X gaming performance, not quite up to Intel's higher frequency CPUs just yet, but still pretty good numbers for the price. We'll talk about that too specifically, but 143 FPS on the 3800X versus 170 on the 9900K. So Intel's leading by about 19% in gaming just on this one title. They check out a bunch of different games. You'll want to dive into what game you're playing specifically, but pretty good. Overclocking a little bit of a boost with the AMD 3800X. Not too much different on the 9900K with the overclock, so 16% difference there. Hardware Unboxed and LTT did 1080p at high, and we're seeing 105 to 123 and then 136 to 152. So I think this was high, maybe LTT was highest. They might have used a little bit different settings there. So pretty interesting to see different results here. And I guess they also did productivity. So specifically Gamers Nexus did lots of different tests. Blender was one of them. They did 12.8 minutes. This is on the 3800X versus 20.3 minutes. So a 7-minute lead, over a 7-minute lead there on like a rendering test. So that is pretty good with those 12 cores. So pretty good there, and we're gonna put that there because that was messed up. 3900X is what we're looking at today, so slight error there. And then you can check out all their numbers, obviously comparison wise, but what we're also seeing in Cinebench scores are pretty big differences as well. So on Hardware Unboxed and LTT, they both scored over 7,000 on the R20 Cinebench benchmark, and then the Intel 9900K was between 43 and 4900 roughly. So between a 48 and a 67% increase, depending on your test bench, what RAM you're using, what other different system settings you're doing as well. So pretty big for productivity on the 3900X with those extra 4 cores, really crushing Intel there. Bam, bam. So pretty good. So gaming, Intel's still leading with the highest performance, and productivity, AMD is just annihilating Intel quite a bit there. So pretty good. Little bit just quick numbers we wanted to show. Definitely check out their videos. We'll leave a link down below to their videos. Linus Tech Tips with a 14 minutes, pretty long there as well. Not quite 30 minutes like the other guys, but still pretty good. So what else can we talk about? Pricing. Some of the CPUs are obviously sold out. The 3900X, people apparently like 12 cores and 8 cores. You can still look around and grab a 3700X or wait a week or so, and hopefully stock comes back in and the pricing stays at MSRP. That would be nice. And they don't overshoot it a little bit. But on Amazon, it wasn't even available. I'm not sure if it's sold out or just wasn't there yet. But definitely look around. AMD has on their site you can check out. We'll leave a link down below where you can purchase it in your area of the world as well. So pretty cool there. But pricing specifically, Hardware Unboxed makes some pretty good points, which are pretty sensible. We check out these at $28.28. So the pricing is for the Intel CPUs. They don't include a CPU cooler. So a lot of people usually choose their own. They'll probably go with liquid coolers or something like that. But for comparison's sake, they use a CPU cooler. Here's the pricing: $485 for the 9900K, $500 for the 3900X. But that again includes a cooler with AMD. So we're looking at $3.70 per frame. It looks like get 135 frames. So Intel's leading with 148. But when you add in the CPU cooler, we go from 327, and it flips a little bit here. So AMD is a little bit better value once you add in a Dark Rock $475 cooler. With a $500 CPU, people usually add maybe like a liquid cooler, $100 plus. Usually, I mean, air coolers aren't bad, but that's kind of what the internet usually does. But either way, AMD comes out on the value-oriented side for gaming FPS specifically. For productivity, AMD just, we don't even need to talk about that. They win there. And then for the lower end parts, the 3700X versus 9700K, they were equivalent before the CPU cooler. And then once you add the CPU cooler, the 9700K obviously cost a lot more. And it doesn't have that included CPU cooler. So pretty cool there from AMD adding that. But they could have just lowered the price and let you pick your own. So up in the air, who decides what's better there. Pricing, it's worth it. But choice is obviously always still good. So Intel is going to have to compete a little bit more in pricing on some of these, but we'll have to see what happens. And what else can we talk about? The new X570 motherboards. So with the new CPUs, we get to see some new motherboards, and specifically Hardware Unboxed does some testing for this at 1923. So you can use the older B450 motherboards with these new CPUs, or the new X570, the chipsets, which will give you the PCI 4.0. And the big benefit we're seeing with the new motherboards is the PCI lane for like storage. We're getting higher storage speeds right now. We're not really hitting any limits. It doesn't look like with like graphics cards or anything like that, but there's going to be some use cases for the new motherboards. But you can, again, use your older motherboards or just buy a cheaper older motherboard. B450, it looks like the performance isn't really any different from their Cinebench results, at least. You probably have to test some games too and everything. And I think they do another motherboard comparison here. They do some different RAM speed testing, it looked like they just did. And they check out some games here too. So that's good that they showed games. Not too much of a difference there, 2 FPS. 1 FPS on the 3700X. So not too big a deal. If you can find a cheaper B450 motherboard, you're going to go for some value-oriented stuff with, doesn't really look like a performance hit to me at least. So that is good. So go out, find a new nice AMD CPU and an older motherboard for a little bit less expensive price. And you're pretty much beating all those Intel kids out there, yeah, finally, after quite a few years. But either way, gaming is coming back for AMD. Productivity is a landslide. Obviously, Threadripper was always good. And now Ryzen 3000 is here. Lastly, we're not going to talk too much about the GPUs. Maybe we'll make a video tomorrow, but the Ryzen, the RX 570, the Radeon graphics cards, they got a little bit of a price cut over the weekend. So I think it was like $380 down to $350, and then what, $450 down to $400. And I don't remember what the anniversary pricing was, but it's now $450. So they are basically, it looks like from just numbers I checked out just a little bit, kind of crushing the new NVIDIA supercards in pricing versus performance in games and everything, frame rate. So definitely check out some videos online. We might make an extra video tomorrow about that specifically, the pricing and some performance numbers to check out. But AMD came out with some CPUs, great pricing, came out with some graphics cards, great pricing, and they're not competing with the super expensive high-end, the $1,000 graphics cards or the $1,000 CPUs just yet, but the $500 price range is definitely where they are giving Intel and Nvidia a little bit of a 1-2 punch. So we got Kendrew saying whoop and a smiley face, and Lulu with some thumbs up. So you guys are some AMD fans, or you just like competition between AMD and Intel. So that is good all around. So hopefully AMD sticks up with the graphics cards and keeps getting them with the CPUs, and Intel hopefully shoots back. So we'll have another episode tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific with some more tech and game news. And with that, we will be signing off. Pew 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 pew.